What's the hardest thing you've had to do in order to become the person you are today?
Overcoming the limiting beliefs that have held me back from achieving what I want. I was definitely the only woman in the room in the beginning. Lots of young guys, and then me trying to figure out how to build startups. I was like Googling all the time. What does API mean? What does, what's an MVP? But I wasn't afraid to ask questions. Learning and self-education is such a high value. I think all entrepreneurs or anyone should avoid burnout at all costs. It took me 3 years to recover from burnout. I feel like I'm dying. I launched Tech Ready Women 3 months after giving birth to my first baby. My husband's like, do you really need another thing to do? But I can't sit still. Building your brand story and your why and that tone of voice and the community is really important to keeping your customers loyal. The real secret, I think, to most people's success is
What's the hardest thing you've had to do in order to become the person you are today?
oh, that's a good question. Hardest thing. I think really like when you're starting anything new, learning a new skill, and then having the mindset in order to achieve it has always been like a key part of, I guess, me even achieving anything. And so really the hardest thing is overcoming the limiting beliefs that have held me back from achieving what I want. And I think I uncover them all the time. Like recently, I was working with my mindset coach and I was trying to understand why I hadn't achieved this goal, right? And through that session, we uncovered that I had this belief that I don't matter. And it was like, where did that come from? And it was my childhood, definitely, where it stemmed from. But it was really interesting because that belief had such a profound impact on so many areas of my life, from relationships to my business to how I am with my children. And I think sometimes facing those kind of beliefs can be quite confronting. And so, but if you can overcome them and you can notice what they are, it can really help you to like tap into what your potential is.
How long have you had a mindset coach for?
Since I was 22.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I was just in Burleigh having lunch with someone, and the guy I was speaking to, his son's like a wakeboard champion. And he said, I think his son's quite young.
Yeah.
And he said, like his team's like mindset coaches. And we're talking about like the correlation between like, sports and business, and, sports have so many mindset coaches. It's like integrating now into the business world.
Yeah.
What prompted you like at such a young age to get onto that and get a coach in that space?
My mum introduced me to the book, The Secret. I don't know if you've heard of that. And so that was like the first personal development book that I read. Actually, I watched the movie as well. And it really kind of opened up my mind to just believing that anything is possible. And then I was someone who I would say I would have failed high school if I hadn't have passed English because I dyslexic, probably ADHD, haven't been diagnosed officially, but definitely in that bucket, and just couldn't focus at school. And they kind of, actually the teachers even said to me, you'll be, someone who just go get married, you'll be better off just going and getting married. But I always had this like drive, and especially an entrepreneurial kind of drive from a young age. And so that really sparked an interest for me in learning about personal development as well as business. And because I didn't go to university, I took a real interest in going to business courses. And I think one of the first business courses I went to was Kerwin Ray's business course. And unfortunately, recently he passed away, which was really sad. He was one of my first business mentors. Wow. And that really got me interested in, all of that kind of stuff. And ever since, I've just always invested in having mindset coaches and business coaches and spiritual coaches. And I just think it's so valuable. If you're an entrepreneur, if you're anybody just wanting to achieve your own goals and, see your own potential, it's just so worth it. You get back tenfold what you get out of them.
For any entrepreneur listening to this who doesn't have a coach, whether it's business, whether it's mindset, spiritual, whatever it is, do you think they're missing out?
100%. Yes. The real secret, I think, to most people's success is having the right people behind you, supporting you on the journey. You can't do it alone.
Agreed. Where has your drive for achievement come from? Like, have you kind of unpacked that?
Yeah. Recently, it was interesting because it used to be, and my mindset coach, he actually reflected the other day because I've been working with him for 12 years. And he said to me, he's like, wow, Christie, you've really come 360 and what really drives you today. And now I come from a much more authentic place of purpose and mission in helping others. But I think prior to that, and maybe at the beginning of my journey, it was all ego led. It was maybe try to prove to my parents I'm smart enough, good enough, worthy enough. And now that I know that I am myself, having worked that out and not needing any validation from anybody else, it's just comes from much more authentic place, which is much more enjoyable.
What was the first business venture you started?
So my first ever idea for a startup was really interesting. So I had a glass of wine with a friend one night and we were talking about dating. I was in a relationship at the time, but she wasn't. And we came up with this idea called Fancy My Friend. And it was a dating website. This is back before the apps. So it was just like Match.com and all of those kind of ones online then. And so the concept was Fancy My Friend. And it was a website that you could introduce your single friends to other friends, right? And we did what most entrepreneurs do, first-time entrepreneurs do, Googled how to build a website, hired someone offline and in the Philippines or somewhere like that, and got this website back, and it was really bad. But at the same time, we were able to convince a few friends and family to put some money into our first idea. This maybe is my sales background from working in retail for so many years. I was able to convince friends and family, put some money in, this is going to be a great idea. And then we went and built this other website, which was pretty much the same thing, but probably worked better because we used a team in Australia, but just still did another mistake, which was not validate our idea, right? And ended up throwing away another 50 grand or whatever it was by that stage. And at the time, I could see, I think apps were just starting to become big on the App Store. I think there was about 1 million apps on the App Store at the time, so it was really new. And I saw, I guess we started to then learn how to validate an idea, do some customer research. I was really getting into the Sydney startup scene at that stage in the early days. And then, pivoted the idea to an app and where you could fancy your friends, fancy people anonymously. So very much like Tinder. So I like to say I came up with Tinder.
Claim that.
Yeah, I'll claim that. I didn't realize that Tinder was getting made and coming to Australia, but I raised around $300,000 in funding for this startup and landed a almost $1 million media deal with Yahoo and Pacific Magazines to launch the marketing of the app. And we built it. It was amazing. We launched. We got around 20,000 users in the first few months.
Wow.
We were running really cool parties with Famous Magazine and stuff like that. And then Tinder hit the market. And we needed to keep upgrading the tech, and I needed to hire more tech. And it was, we just couldn't convince investors anymore to put any more money in. So I ended up having to close that business down, which was actually quite devastating, having raised $300,000 of investor money and being my first startup,
But some big lessons, right?
Huge lessons. Yes, huge lesson. I learned so much through that process of what not to do. But it really got me passionate about technology, innovation, and startup. And I was like, wow, this is actually something I'm good at, in terms of creating products and taking them to market. And yeah, that really launched me into the tech startup industry.
What was it like being a female founder?
Like very lonely. I was definitely the only woman in the room
Wow.
in the beginning. So I got started in startups when Fish Burners, for those who don't know what that is, it's one of the co-working spaces in Sydney. It was one of the first in Sydney to launch, and literally lots of young guys and then me in a room trying to figure out how to build startups. Luckily, I'm confident, can walk in and just talk to anybody. I was like Googling all the time, what does API mean? What does, what's an MVP? And, but I wasn't afraid to ask questions. And I think that's why I was able to stick around and continue to learn. I think for me, learning and self-education is such a high value. So I even enrolled in coding courses. I can't code, but I learned how to understand what my developers were doing so I could hire the best people. And then from there, because I had to close Fancy down, I'd built a really great team around me of engineers as well as UX designers. And together, we actually had a couple of people reach out and say, can you help us on a project if you're not doing anything now? So we kind of formed this agency where we started spinning up startups and helping others build their products and taking them to market. And about 2 or 3 years in, I was having a lunch with some EY executives, and it's one of the big 4 firms. And I said to them, hey, your competitors are doing this. We should build the product that can beat that. And interestingly, we won the project off their internal team. We pitched what we should be building, and we built this technology called Ready, which you are able to, if you're going for an R&D grant, which you can do if you're building technology, then there's a whole process to that, to getting to documentation and all that kind of thing. So we built the portal for people to be able to put their R&D documents through, and then for EY to be able to help them do the claims. And it was an amazing project, and it was very successful, and they scaled it through the organization. And we built that for 3 years. That was one of our biggest projects, along with working with startups and things like that. But I did that for about 5 years before I exited that business. But at the same time, it was interesting, like coming back to being the only woman in the room. At the same time, I was actually pregnant. While building that business, I fell pregnant with my first baby. And it was me heavily pregnant with all my engineers and team. But I actually had a lot of women reach out to me saying, how do I get started? Or how did you get started? And, or I've spent $50,000 on a WordPress site and my developer's gone rogue. And I was just hearing so many stories. And that's when the idea for Tech Ready Women was born. Because I think, well, for me anyway, when I fell pregnant, there was something in me that went, I really want to be doing something more meaningful. Like if I'm going to spend any time away from my child, I want to be doing something that's helping others, that I'm really passionate about. And it was great, like helping startups get their products to market, but that wasn't really what I was passionate about. And it gave me the skill set. It was kind of like my university degree in building technology startups. And I think I probably spent what you'd spend at university in making mistakes. So it was all worth it in the end anyway.
So what happens? You get an idea, let's say like Tech Ready Women comes to you, concept. Like, do you just go and execute straight away by like conversations, trying to validate verbally with people? Like what's the process? That you go through?
I mean, I've got a much more structured process these days, but I guess building technology and innovation products, the key is to go out and speak to your customers first and get that validation. And so, I would do what I now instruct most founders to do. And I started interviewing women who have an idea for a startup and understanding what their problems were and what are some of the other solutions that they're currently doing. And then I designed the program around their needs. And I also understood like how, like what did they need in order to be able to access this kind of program? Was it the flexibility to learn? Was it going to be in person? Could it be online? All of that kind of stuff can, to help me to really design that. And then at the same time, I was, pitching to partners to say, hey, come and support us. And I got EY as a supporter, Amazon, GitHub, a few other partners and sponsors to help launch it. But I launched Tech Ready Women 3 months after giving birth to my first baby, and which I don't recommend. But it was just, it was quite funny because my husband's like, do you really need another thing to do? But I can't sit still.
How did you manage that, like with just giving birth and, then you're involved in this startup? Did it impact you in regards to your results with the business?
So, yes, I think in that I was probably working too much and not looking after myself. Definitely doable. I think, if you want something done, you give it to a busy mum, to be honest, because we can get a lot of things done and multitask very well. But yeah, I think the 2 years into building Tech Ready Women, like I don't think I expected it to have so much success early on. And so it kind of took off, and we were running back-to-back events and supporting hundreds of women through those programs and running workshops and things like that. And then I had a baby in tow and not getting much sleep and not eating right and stressing about cash flow and income, like all of those kind of things that come with it, and not having the resource and support. And at the time, like I didn't have any family around to help with our baby, but we kind of just juggled. And about 2 years in, I started to get burnt out. Definitely, like it impacted me, and I actually fell pregnant with my second baby while I was hitting burnout. And that was probably the most challenging, most traumatic time I've ever experienced, because through that pregnancy, and because stress impacts the gut so much, and I'd had such prolonged stress for the 2 years of building Tech Ready Women. When I was pregnant with Ava, I had this rash come out all over my body.
Wow.
And it was itchy 24/7 for 5 months of the pregnancy. About halfway in, I started getting all this. It was all over me. And so it's hard enough as it is being pregnant and working, but I was pregnant, working, and had an itchy rash all over me. And if you've got your own business, you can't stop. Like it doesn't stop. And so I had to take some time out, but I couldn't fully take time out And so I think for me, that was probably like one of the most hardest times. And I had panic attacks throughout the pregnancy, and I had postnatal depression. And they told me once the itch will go away once the baby's born. And when you're like, oh my God, I've got 5 months to go, it was just unbearable. So but once she was born, I had postnatal depression. I was crying all the time. I was really disconnected from her and that pregnancy, which was really sad. And I look back and I'm like, would I have, done anything different prior to falling pregnant? Like with my knowledge that I have now, yes, absolutely. And I think all entrepreneurs or anyone should avoid burnout at all costs, because it took me 3 months to recover. It took me 3 years to recover from burnout.
I ran into someone the other day who said he's at a cafe, goes, I've got burnout. I'm just getting over it. And he asked me like, hey, what do you do? And I thought, what? I actually don't know. Like what would you recommend to avoid burnout? Because I couldn't answer that question.
Yeah. Got to look after yourself, eat right, get 8 to 10 hours sleep a night. Like sleep is your number one. Like if you're not getting good quality sleep every night, it'll have such a knock-on effect. And I know prior to COVID, there was this hustle culture, and everyone would work until like 1 a.m. and, not be sleeping and just trying to work and get as much done. But it's just, that's what can have a huge impact. And I think reducing stress, as hard as that can be, working with your mindset coach, meditating, going for walks, take a break through the day, as much as you think that is taking up your time with working, it actually isn't, because take it from me, recovering from burnout has a huge impact. It has a bigger impact than just taking an hour or half an hour out of your day to get the yoga mat out and stretch your body and, eat healthy food and drink more water. It's preventing. You've got to do those things to prevent it, because it will get you later.
So where you are today, can you handle stress a lot better than compared to like 4 years ago? So like if a big problem unfolds, do you feel like you can work through it better, like during the problem and then post-problem, like dealing with it?
Definitely. I think there was a period there though that, because I'd had such severe burnout where it really impacted my nervous system. So these were my symptoms. I had brain fog, fatigue, light sensitivity, gut issues, parasites, leaky gut, candida overgrowth, SIBO, like so many issues with my gut from the stress and the burnout. And that took so long to heal. And plus we went through COVID at the same time. So it was, I felt really unwell. I think for me, like I remember there was a moment where I was like, I feel like I'm dying. Like it felt that bad. And to get out of bed when you're that fatigued, and it really impacts your work. And so, I don't know. Like I think if you can avoid it, just do it at all costs, because it's not good.
So I guess you got to be disciplined, right? Like eating well every day, meditating or like every day. Like you got to build in those daily habits, right?
Yes, definitely. For me now, it's just managing my time. I get up at 5:30 now that I live on the Gold Coast, and the sun's up earlier, and go for a run, move my body. I drink plenty of water, getting the right nutrients and supplements into your body. So now it's like I've learned so much about how the importance of supplements when you're not getting a nutritious diet or getting the right nutrients, which a lot of us aren't these days because of how our food is actually grown and made and then delivered to us. And so if you are someone who is busy on the go and your stress levels are up a bit more, it is important to have a look at what adaptogens can help you to maintain that, or, get your minerals checked at the doctor and see where you might be deficient, whether that's in magnesium or, iron, copper, whatever it is that can help support you. And now that I'm really aware of that, I am so much more healthier. I have more energy, I'm more focused, and I can handle a bit more stress.
So now that you live on the Gold Coast, where did you come from?
So I was actually, I grew up in Queensland.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually from North Queensland, Airlie Beach.
Okay, nice.
But was living on the Gold Coast, and then where I met my husband, and then moved to Sydney for 13 years, and then we've just moved back in June.
So now that you're living here, let's compare it to Sydney, not Airlie Beach. How important do you think lifestyle is for a founder that has the flexibility, like to work remote, to positively impact, like I guess their whole environment? Like, do you feel like being in the Goldie? Let me elaborate. Like, do you feel like being in the Goldie, you're more creative, you're more relaxed, like compared to like being in a city?
I definitely think so. I get a little bit more distracted these days. I'm like, oh, it looks nice. Might go for a swim. But no, I mean, I just think that I'm building Intu Wellness, my business that I'm focused on now, to be a business where I can work from anywhere in the world. And it's really important to me to have the balance of lifestyle, because if I want to build a big business, I need to feel well. I need to be in a place where I can de-stress easily. And yes, the energy of Sydney, I think, is different. Like it's much more fast paced and everyone is go, go, go. And there is a little bit of a keeping up with the Joneses kind of thing going on. And I feel, much more relaxed here on the Gold Coast. I think for any founder, like, what do you want? Come move to the Gold Coast. Although a lot of locals probably like, no more people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The reason I asked, I come from Sydney, and we started moving up north, like went to the Northern Beaches, then we ended up in Byron, and it's had such a positive impact on how I operate in business. Just I feel like when I was in Sydney, I had to go away to ideate. I had to go on a holiday to like, okay, got the idea.
Yeah.
I'm thinking better, but I'm thinking like better most days now.
Yeah.
I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like environment's really important.
It is, yes, definitely. And I think, back when I was living in Sydney, and this is pre-COVID days where I had an office in the city and I was working out of the co-working spaces, like I thought that was so important in order to, be successful, is just have all these people around. But it was actually like really distracting as well, right? And being in that kind of office environment, like I like having my home office. Like our whole team for Intu Wellness is remote.
So
like
good.
we are all over the place, and I guess you get to hire the best people when you set up your team that way too.
True. Just rewinding back, so Tech Ready Women was for non-technical founders.
Yes, non-technical female founders.
Non-technical female founders, and was this curriculum that was like how did it work?
So our first program, our female founder program, went from idea to MVP. So MVP meaning minimum viable products, the first product you're going to take to market. So we taught everything from how to validate your idea to understanding business models to understanding technology and UX design and actually bringing your product to life and how to pitch that to your designers, developers, and get anyone on board to create the product, as well as pitching your idea, understanding startup legals and the fundamentals to set up your business. So really covered a various range of skills and knowledge to help them to execute really confidently in this industry. And now we have another program called Investment Ready program where we're teaching women how to really raise their first round of funding, whether that's through debt, loans, financing, through raising capital from investors, any kind of funding element, everything you need in order to get investment ready. And so that, you're able to raise capital successfully. But we've had over 2,000 women go through our events, workshops.
Wow.
And it's been really successful. And I'm just so proud of, a lot of the founders who've been through the program and executed. And now it's when we run an orientation night, there'll be 50 women in a room. And I just remember like me being the only woman in the room, and now there's 50 in every cohort. And it's just really exciting to see that we're really moving the needle in the tech startup industry.
Did you teach sales in that?
No, actually, no. So that's actually understanding sales, B2B sales, B2C, all that kind of stuff, and marketing. That's actually a program that we're developing at the moment.
Nice. Yeah, because you said you understood sales when you were in retail, you said before. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I'm a bit of a salesperson.
Yeah, because you strike me as that. And I guess my question is like, if you look at a lot of companies, like look at Apple, Wozniak was technical, Jobs was sales marketing. And there's typically like always someone who's really good at selling.
Yeah.
So do you think if you didn't have that natural, maybe sales acumen, that you'd be able to raise the funding you did in these other companies, have these great meetings with people and sell to new staff that you're looking to hire? Like, do you think everything would go as easy as it, well, not that it's easy, but do you think everything would go as well as it did?
I definitely think there are certain skill sets that are really helpful to getting a business off the ground. And if you don't have that skill set, then go learn it. I definitely had a sales background. I'm naturally good at communicating and pitching ideas and coming up with ideas and executing them. What I'm not good at is operations, systems, processes, anything that is mundane and boring. But I'll give you an example, right? When I say, if you don't have the skill set, go and learn it. When you're building a startup, you have to wear multiple hats in the beginning because you don't have the money to go and hire all these senior people that can help you execute, right? And building Intu, luckily, both myself and Anna had these amazing skill sets that were really complementary and were able to get the business off the ground. And then once the business started making money, we were able to hire a few people. However, what I learned from building my first e-commerce business is that where you scale is through digital marketing. And no one on the team had that skill set. So I was like, okay, I'll go learn it. So now I went and did a program and a course to teach me how to do the paid ads and the creative and all that kind of stuff. And now I run that part of our business.
Very interesting.
And I think for an e-commerce founder, it's like one of the most important jobs a founder can do is run their paid ads. It is so important to the success of getting more customers and building that audience. I've just churned through so many agencies and freelancers who just did a really shit job. And so I was like, well, I know I can do a better job. And to be honest, I would say I'm intern level still, but I do a much better job than any of those agencies or freelancers we'd hired that are so-called experts.
Someone asked me for someone on Meta to recommend. I do a lot of paid media as well. And I say like 99.8% of the people are shit.
Yes.
Like maybe 9.9.
Yeah.
And there's a very, very small group of people that can execute.
Do it.
But I never took, I kind of, in retrospect, wish I learned. So is this on paid media on like Meta, on YouTube?
Yeah, not YouTube. I've done Meta. So I mainly run Meta. Okay. And now we're starting TikTok.
Oh, nice. Yeah, TikTok seems like it'd be good for you.
Yes, definitely. So, but, our biggest audience is on Instagram.
Instagram, yeah.
So, yeah, we run a lot of Meta ads.
Tech Ready Women. So you exited that business?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in April this year, I sold Tech Ready Women to Scolari Partners, which they're a private capital fund. They invest in early stage startups. And so it really made sense. Because I'm a bit of a serial entrepreneur, I'd started as I still had Tech Ready Women. So I had 2 businesses, 2 babies, and a lot on my plate, and had recovered from burnout. So I was like, I definitely need to offload something. But I was so passionate about, and I still am, and so passionate about that business and supporting the founders. And it was a real hard decision for me. I had been approached a couple of times by potential acquirers, but no one made sense, because if I was going to sell that business, it had to be to somebody who cared about these founders as much as I did. And when I met the founding team and the CEO, Carolyn, I was just so impressed. Their values were aligned. They had a really great mission and vision behind what they were doing in supporting startups. And so it made sense. But it was interesting. As I was signing the deal for that sale, the business sale, I was in hospital in Indonesia in ICU.
Jeez.
Freak kind of illness, yeah. But I think it was all linked anyway with the stress.
So let's talk about that, because we were talking about that before we kicked off. So you went away?
So at the time of selling Tech Ready Women, I just launched Intu Wellness into Mecca, and my business partner Anna had just had a baby, and so there was a lot on my plate. And I'd taken the kids. Oh, and my husband was traveling overseas, so I had the kids on my own. And so there was a lot on. And I flew to Bali, must have picked up this pneumonia bug on the plane on the way over. So 2 days in, I got really unwell. And luckily, my mum lives over in Indonesia, in Lombok, and was flying to her place. On the day, I literally handed the kids over, went straight to bed. And then within a few days, they took me to hospital because I was so unwell and very dehydrated and things like that. They thought I had dengue fever.
Wow.
Yeah. And anyway, went into ICU because I just started to not be able to breathe, and was there in a Lombok hospital. So think remote hospital in Indonesia. It's like being stuck in a Australian remote regional hospital, but way worse. And not being able to speak the language, I was hooked up to ventilators for 2 weeks. And it was really interesting because at the time, selling Tech Ready Women was such a big personal decision for me, and it was hard for me to let go. And I was really fearing at the time the worst, even though when I had made the decision to sell it to them, I was like, nope, they're the right people. But I just found it really hard to let go. I just had felt so much responsibility to the women who, and the female founders who were going to go through the program and those who'd been through it. And we'd just built such an amazing community, and I was really attached to that. And so I was telling you before that I actually looked up, because I was on these ventilators. It was so surreal in this ICU in this small hospital. And I obviously had a lot of time on my hands, but I started Googling like meaning of lung issues, a spiritual meaning of lung issues. And it said grief, transition, letting go. And I was like, wow, this is such a pivotal moment, because that's what I was feeling before going into hospital and getting this ill. Because they were saying to me, you're so healthy. How did you get so unwell? And it was true, like typically healthy. I've never get sick. But this was just it just got me. And then when they medevaced me back to Australia, and the lung specialist was just like, we really just don't understand how you got this. Like 10% of people who get mycoplasma pneumonia will get quite unwell. It's like 10% will get pneumonia who get mycoplasma pneumonia. Yeah. 10% of people who get mycoplasma, now I can't say it. 10% of people who get the pneumonia will get unwell, but there's like an even smaller percentage who will get as unwell as I did. And so, yeah, they were really like baffled as to why I was so unwell. But I'm just such a big believer in how emotions can really, impact, and how that stress can really impact you and, make you susceptible to getting sick. And so, yeah, it was an interesting time.
Were you also fearful around your execution with Intu Wellness? I know you said you got the Mecca, so obviously that's spoiling, but I know what it's like with starting a new business. Like I was, especially in something different, in a different area, like I've doubted myself around my execution. Like, was that playing on your minds at all?
Not really. I don't know. Like, I think because with Intu Wellness, we had launched, it was a year or almost 2 year process to launching into Mecca. And it was a big moment, and there was a lot of pressure in the lead up to that. And I think more so it was just I had too much on my plate. And I think I could these days, after 15 or 16 years of building businesses, even longer now, I think, like I feel like I can do that part well and I can execute really well, but I can definitely fall over when I've got too much on my plate. And I think that's what happened. And the stress and the emotional, impact that it had selling something that meant so much to me, I think that's why, it had such a big impact like that.
Got it. Yeah. So Intu Wellness stemmed from obviously you like facing burnout, right? Is that like how this all came about?
Yeah. So really the inspiration for me was my own journey of healing my gut and learning really how to support myself while I was busy. But also I always had a love of beauty and fashion and things like that. And for Anna, my co-founder, we've been good friends for 10 years now. I actually met her at one of my parties that I threw with Famous Magazine for my first startup. Okay. And her husband and my husband, they had the same agency. And so, we met quite a while ago, and we're friends. And we were out walking with, I think we can't remember, might have had a bit of baby brain, but one of us was pushing a pram, and we're just talking about our love of supplements. And for Anna, I think she just had her baby. She must have just had her baby, because she was saying she was taking magnesium, and we're both taking marine collagen and different supplements for both our wellness and beauty benefits. And it just sparked this light bulb moment for both of us. At the time, I had just finished and winded down, something I was working on. And for her, she's always wanted to have a business or to work on something that she was passionate about. And we just started talking, and I was like, hey, why don't we just start looking at, this opportunity? We both care about wellness and beauty, and we want to help others. And yeah, that's when Intu Wellness was born.
And then what do you do? Like, so you decide you want to do supplements. Like, what happened? Like, what are the steps after that?
So yeah, after that conversation, I started doing the customer research and interviewing women who take supplements and really trying to understand where the gaps were, because supplements, especially in the ingestible beauty space, I mean, supplements in general, really crowded market. There was so many brands out there. So how do we stand out?
Mm.
And so through that customer research, through the market research we did, we uncovered some gaps. And, you know, I really got to understand who our customer persona was, like who really, you know, wanted these kind of products. And the gap that we found was targeting or supporting women who had were busy, always on, trying to juggle multiple things. And we call her the modern ambitious woman, trying to juggle it all, which is most women these days. But predominantly there's, you know, the 30 to 50 kind of age range where you are juggling multiple things, mostly because you've got children or you're trying to climb the corporate career ladder, build a business or multiple things. And so we definitely identified with that persona. And yeah, she really cared about, you know, both her wellness and beauty benefits. And there were at the time were really great trending ingredients that were on the rise that was really driving this category. And that was ingredients like marine collagen and astaxanthin, and people were really becoming aware of the benefits of these ingredients. And so through that market research, yeah, we just found the gap. And what I really noticed about some of the competitors in the market were they all had very similar packaging, and it was beige, pink, or boring, I like to say. And so I was like, well, we want our customers to feel confident in their skin. Let's create a brand that's bold, dynamic, and it makes you feel confident. And, you know, the packaging's beautiful. You want to keep it on your desk or in your kitchen because it looks beautiful. It's not this ugly, clinical, white, beige, pink, or boring bottle that you've got hidden away in your drawer where then you forget to take it. You know, because the key to success of taking supplements, especially beauty supplements like marine collagen, is taking it consistently every day and you get the results. But you need to be able to see it to remember it. And so that was a big part of the strategy, was to design, you know, the brand to look and feel like something that you were proud of, and, you know, it was aspirational.
I love that. So have you guys bootstrapped this business?
So we're self-funded initially. And then we raised our first round of capital last year from investors. And then, yeah, we're going to be raising another round of capital in the next six months.
It's amazing. So Tech Ready Women, was that bootstrapped?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was 90%
nice.
I was 90% shareholder when I sold.
It's amazing. Great. And what's been like the process like raising capital this time? And obviously, you know, it seems like you're at the top of your journey in terms of, you know, lessons. Yeah. Like, how's that process been?
Yeah. So raising capital is really not easy. It's definitely, I mean, if you want to raise capital, I think you need to have a network. If you don't have a network, you've got to start to build one, because it is really about relationships. And I don't like to just bring anybody into my businesses these days. I learned the hard way that, you know, people on your cap table when they can have a say, or they think they can have a say, it can really impact you and how you build your business. I think it's really important, if you're going to raise capital, that you interview the investors and ensure that they understand the stage you're at and are supportive, especially in the early stages, because you really need people that you can pick up the phone and say, hey, this has just happened. It's so shit. Can you help out? Or like, can you get me a contact? I'm, you know, even at our stage now, we're 2.5 years in to building the business, and, you know, we're going to be doing another round of capital soon. And even then I'm like, oh, it's going to be a bigger round, a bit more pressure. And you got to be ready for that kind of pressure, because you're responsible for delivering a return for your investors. So I think it's something that if you are going to go do it and bring people on, you really got to take it seriously, yeah.
Supplements is like crowded.
Mm.
Your specific niche, like what you're doing, I'm not sure. I mean, but you mentioned marketing around how you guys wanted to, I guess, have that competitive advantage. Like when I look at, for example, like chocolate, there's this brand in Byron called Loco Love. And all I do is think about the branding, and it's blown up, like it's gone crazy. And chocolate's so competitive. And when you said the word, like the branding, the marketing, like how important is it now that you're in supplements to get that right to really win?
It's so important. If you're an e-commerce brand, you really need to look at your branding and the execution of your messaging, your brand story, the look and feel, the packaging, because there's so many competitors and it is so easy for people to start an e-commerce brand these days. And I say easy lightly because it's not that easy. But yeah, especially when you're going into a crowded market, having your unique value proposition or selling proposition really needs to be there. And for us, obviously anybody can go and create bold, bright packaging now and emulate or copy what we do. But with that also comes, and this is why I say it, building your brand story and your why and that tone of voice and the community is really important to keeping your customers loyal, because no one can replace you in the business as the founder and, bringing up that story. So, for example, early on, we were like, okay, we want Intu Wellness to stand out on its own and, be its own brand and not have to be the faces of it and be out doing any content. But, for what we do, there's a lot of trust we need to build, and no one has our story about why we're doing it and why we care about supporting women with their health and their beauty goals. And, we know the bigger brands, they can't tell the same story.
Correct.
And so, yes, it is important from the packaging and brand look and feel, but it's also important for your brand story and having a unique twist on what you're doing, I think, in order to stand out and just showing customers how you want to support them and having a really great customer experience. Like it's your customers are number one.
You guys have got a pretty powerful brand story, like just with your background, like with obviously your business achievements and then obviously you being so unwell.
Yeah.
And then obviously with Anna with her profile.
Yeah.
It's a pretty powerful concept.
Yeah. Yeah. We're lucky, and I think we're still friends today, which is great because we've, 3.5 years working together, and most people say don't go into business with friends. And to be honest, I would always give that advice. But from day one, Anna and I sat down because I said, I still want our friendship at the end of this. There's been so many business partnerships go wrong. And so we sat down over 2 days and we listed out our values, how we like to work, what we cared about, what's our style? Do we have the same vision? We really mapped that out early on, and then obviously set up our agreements in that way. If this happens, then, this person gets that. And if this happens, you get that. And, so it really was flexible, and it allowed us to have those conversations. And I think if you're going to go into business with anybody, really, you need to have those, all those hard conversations up front. Say, what are you bringing to the table? What are you bringing to the table? Is this equal? Is it not equal? Well, if not, what do you do about it? And how do you set up, your agreements so that it can support either way? And we were lucky to, that we're great communicators and we're both upfront and always honest. And if one's shitty at one person, we'll just say it. Just don't let it fester. And,
I love that.
And we also don't let. We also only talk about work at work, and then otherwise we're back onto our, what are you wearing to this thing? Or I don't know, do you like this, or should I buy this, or just our girly chat, really.
It's great. Did you drive that whole process around?
Yeah,
I guess identifying that, hey, this could go south.
Yes.
And friction support, and so I haven't heard that approach before.
Yes.
I
Well,
really like it.
I've had a business partnership breakup before, so
Okay.
I felt the pain, and so I also didn't want to lose a friend out of it, and so I think for us that's the most important thing that we put first. And for Anna, this is her first business, and
Mm.
so completely different experiences, but we also bring different things to the business. I can't bring her audience to this business, and she can't bring my skill set and knowledge to the business. And when we actually divvy up, our jobs for the business. And like I was like, I'm not doing operations, that's your job. So the good thing is Anna likes to do the operations naturally. She's definitely jumps in and she works really hard. And then she doesn't like having to go out and raise capital and do certain things. So it really works, and we have fun along the way. And I think the biggest thing is like, we've really had to work hard, even though it looks easy on the outside. We've really had to work hard to bring our products to market. There's so much goes wrong through the process of manufacturing supplements and understanding all the regulations behind it. We've had to learn a lot, and it's not been easy. And even when we launched into the market, the TGA guidelines came in with, it was about 3 months after launching, that you can't use influencers to promote your products or
Oh, wow.
yeah. And so we were like, great, we can't even say, and we like our products on social media. And that made it really tough. So
Wow.
we feel lucky that, we're coming up to 3 years in business early next year, and, that we've been able to do what we have without paying people to leave reviews and that, all of that kind of stuff that a lot of brands would have been able to do early on.
So customer acquisition is primarily through paid media. Is that right?
Yes, and our organics channel's pretty strong. So we have 40% of our sales come through our email marketing.
Wow.
And organic channels, as well as our paid as well. So I'm now driving the paid side of things. I don't want to do it forever, but it's definitely a big part of the business that we need to keep driving to scale our online.
40% through email is crazy.
Yeah,
It's
we've
amazing.
got a really good engaged community and
It's unreal.
high repeat customers, which is great.
And how often are you emailing?
3 times a week.
Okay.
A bit more when it's campaigns and things on, but yeah. And we do a lot. We do a lot of collaborations in order to grow our database, win holidays, win jewelry or anything like that. So we collaborate with other brands. And we asked our audience, we survey them all the time. We say, what do you want from us? And they're like, more giveaways and competitions, So
You serve them.
we give it to them.
Did you start with the database like clean?
Yeah, So we started about 6 months out to launching. We started building our social media. Obviously, Anna's got an audience, so we were able to drive her audience to that out to our Instagram handle. But we had a wait list of, I think, a couple of thousand before we launched on our database. And we hit, I think within the first 2 days, about 50,000 in sales.
Wow.
So, everyone was ready and waiting. And our hero product, Sleep and Skin Renewal, it is our best seller. I think everybody wants a good night's sleep and wants glowing skin.
Good combo.
Good combo, right? And I think the key to the success of that product is it's something you take nightly. And so it's really easy to incorporate into your nightly routine. And because it contains ingredients like marine collagen, astaxanthin, zinc, vitamin C, and biotin for the skin, you get results. And because you're taking it every night, you're getting good quality sleep, which also helps regenerate your skin, and you feel good. And who doesn't want to feel good?
So what's the process with your product? So you get a product like ready that you think is right.
Mm-hmm.
How do you go about like understanding like, hey, this feels good on my skin because someone else's skin type might be different? Or if it's ingestible, like it's tastes good for me, not that. Like, how do you go through that process?
Yeah, there's a testing process, obviously, because flavor is, it's a hard one, right? The good thing is Anna doesn't like sweet, but I like sweet. So, and we're trying to mask ingredients in these products and these supplements that are amazing potent ingredients that can help you, but they taste like shit. If you had them on your own. So you have to mask them with, we use natural flavors and stevia, so no sugar added to our products. But yeah, so through that process, obviously Anna and I are testing first, then we bring in a test group to also trial the flavors until we get to like a flavor that majority of people like. It doesn't, not everybody's going to love the flavor. But yeah, Sleep and Skin Renewal has a really high repeat purchase rate. So I think we nailed it there. And then we did the same with our next 2 products as well. And we're currently formulating, another 7 products at the moment.
Okay, they're all cooking. So how do you go about doing like R&D? Because like in the industry you're in now, like this health, wellness, are you constantly like doing research, looking ahead, like looking at trends and trying to work? Is that what you have to do a lot of that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we've brought on some advisors into the business who are veterans in the industry as well, who've been helping give advice on trends and ingredients and data and stats and things like that. And so we're always, I use platforms like Trend. keywordtool.io and things like that, which can help you to find what people are searching for and what keywords are trending.
That's smart.
We also do that for flavors as well. So we couldn't decide which flavor for our gut and skin rejuvenation product to choose from because they both tasted great. We had peach and we had blood orange. So to help us decide, I put it into Google Trends. So in terms of, I searched like peach flavored drinks and I think blood orange drinks, and peach was just like, so we just went with peach.
I love that. What's your best selling product?
So Sleep and Skin Renewal is our best selling.
And that's the one that obviously people then continuously, which is great.
Yeah, they're all good selling, but that's our best. And we've had it the longest. It was our OG.
And how did you come up with that? Who came up with that concept?
Well, through our research.
Okay.
So women were saying, lack of sleep was one of their biggest problems. And I think a lot of people, what the stats are, 60% of Australians, 60 to 70% of Australians aren't getting good quality sleep every night. And sleep's the foundation of health, and it helps reset your mind, your body, your skin. And I think also through the research of just being able to combine both beauty and wellness, so creating multifunctional supplements, it was able to hit both, our customers' goals in the one product. Tasted great. You get more out of the one product, which helps save, time, money. Yeah. And it was really good value, and it actually works, which was the main thing.
Which is the important one.
Yeah.
Your customers, are they all Australian or?
Predominantly, yes. We do have some international customers, but predominantly Australia. We're really only focused on Australia for the next 12 months or so before we're going to start looking at international.
Yeah. Yeah. And you look to like maybe secure someone like a Mecca over there?
Yeah. So there's, your Sephora's and all of those kind of stores as well. But yeah, we've got our eyes set on a few different markets at the moment. So
love that.
Yes, that's the next step. But, from what I've learned, you've really got to nail your own market first. And we're still 2.5 years, still fresh. So I think we've got a little bit to go before we look overseas.
Unreal. Well, Christie, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good to jam, good to chat.
Yeah, thank you.
Good to hear about everything.
Yes, a lot of fun. Thank you.
And wishing you all the best.
Thanks.